Hello class, we called our team Opportunity Initiation as we are striving to bring awareness to the issue of the opportunity gap created by poverty in our world. This is a global issue and affects an overwhelming percentage of our population every day. First, I'm going to briefly show you around our website, and then my team members and I will talk you through the research and findings that we have done. Starting with the homepage, you will find graphics and pictures that show you just how pressing this issue really is. At the bottom, you will also find a short video that gives you a brief overview of multiple different aspects of the issue. Transitioning to the About Us tab, you will find short bios of each of the team members. Each of us have a unique background that allowed us to contribute different things to this project. The next tab is called Learn More. On the Learn More tab, you will find articles written by each team member about specific aspects of the issue. They are broken down into different tabs for each aspect of the issue. Within each tab, you will find 3 different articles related to that major point of the issue. Finally, moving to the News and Resources tab, you will find links to on and off-campus resources that can help people who are either passionate about this issue and want to learn more, or who are actually struggling with this issue themselves. My name is Miranda O'Donnell, and for my part of this project, I decided to focus on the opportunity gaps in sports. I'm very passionate about sports, and I've been involved in them from a very young age. Even when I was younger, I could tell that there was definitely an opportunity gap between children from low-income versus high-income households. Low-income households show much less participation in youth sports because sports can get expensive. There's not much opportunity for kids in low-income households and families who can't afford the expensive sports to actually participate. This can be a huge issue because sports are a gateway to education, staying out of trouble, leadership, mentorship, and guidance from coaches, and even possible future career opportunities. When children don't have the right opportunities in sports, it then turns into opportunities in housing, careers, and many other things in their future. This can be a huge issue, and all of it starts with simply the low opportunities for children who have smaller incomes and families that can't quite afford the big sports that some other kids can play. For my second article, I researched programs that are already in place to improve this issue of opportunity gap in children's sports. I found that this issue definitely takes a very multi-sector engagement type of initiative. A majority of the programs that already exist, such as the Basketball Without Borders program, have nonprofit and for-profit organizations banding together to try to make a change. Personally, I think that so many more organizations and opportunities are out there to push for this change. I think great things can be created and programs can be created so easily if people just work together to build this change. For my third article, I researched how social innovation techniques have been used to help combat this issue. One of the best things I found came from the Beyond Sport program. In this program, multiple organizations have come together and used social innovation techniques to develop awards and incentives for the development of youth participation in sport. This program uses social innovation to push people all around the world to develop programs and help change this issue. I also wanted to touch briefly on the additional news and resources that I have for this aspect of the issue. This first link that I've put up here is a link to a website where you can actually donate today. So if you're very passionate about this issue and want to help make a change, you can donate to help fund opportunities for children in sports in low-income areas. The second link is an on-campus resource. Any UD student can sign up for sports at the intramural level for as little as $3. And the final link is more of a global issue website. This is an organization that strives to be leaders in this issue in the sport community, and you can find a lot more information about how they do that and what they do from this link. I've really enjoyed researching and learning things about how the opportunity and poverty gap issue arises in sports. Being passionate about sports and involved in my entire life made me realize how much of this issue is really going on in our society. Being on the UD softball team here for the past 3 years has been one of the best experiences of my life, and I realized that I want other kids, no matter what their income level or how poverty affects them, to be able to be involved in things like that as well. We need to all band together to try to change this issue. Once this issue changes, it will drive change for educational opportunities, healthcare opportunities, career opportunities, and everything in the future. I think sports is a great way to use social innovation and multi-sector engagement to change issues not even related to sport, but sport is a great place to start.
When it comes to poverty and the opportunity gap, these inequalities in opportunity have an effect in all aspects of life, especially in healthcare, which is what I'm going to talk about. So, to start with the statement of issue, poor health and poverty are strongly correlated. And the United States does provide both public and private healthcare coverage, but over 100 million people who live with low incomes are only covered by either Medicare or Medicaid and don't have their own form of health insurance. Low-income families are especially vulnerable to be uninsured just because they can't afford to pay health care because of how expensive the prices are. And when they get sick or injured, it leads them not to seek out health care because their lack of insurance makes the cost of medications and procedures very, very expensive. Even a trip just to the doctor's office to get medicine for a cold or something simple like that can cost hundreds of dollars. So this is why people who don't have health insurance tend to go to the emergency room rather than seek out their primary care physician. So also people living in poverty are exposed to much harsher conditions in not only work but in their home lives as well. There's a greater possibility of getting sick or injured, and stuff like airborne diseases like pneumonia are far more common in people who live in poverty, and things like tuberculosis, just because they're overcrowded areas and poor living conditions and very poor sanitation. Additionally, the lack of food, clean water, and sanitation itself can be fatal without health care, and that's a huge issue for people who live in poverty. Next, I'm going to talk about multi-sector engagement. There have been monumental steps toward tri-sector, multi-sector engagement in the field of healthcare. And multi-sector engagement is important to help meet the current challenges of society for managing healthcare costs and implementing new technologies that can help serve society. And in order to do this, the healthcare field has combined experiences of people training in not only medicine, but in service and public office, as well as people who have experience with nonprofit and government organizations that are both working toward healthcare equality in the country. And these approaches have been able to reduce the cost of healthcare as well as make healthcare more accessible to people regardless of their socioeconomic status. So multi-sector engagement has been very beneficial in the field of healthcare. The last article I'm going to talk about is social innovation. So social innovation has inspired social movements and focus groups who have a main goal to expand the access of healthcare and lower the prices. In these focus groups and movements, they focus on the needs of the particular group, which are the people who are living in poverty and can't afford their own healthcare. And through these innovations, they've created more walk-in clinics and increased accessibility to healthcare. There's more walk-in clinics in towns and cities with high poverty. They've also lowered prices of healthcare, and by doing this, they've targeted daily working and living conditions for those people who live in poverty, and they've come up with more resources for these people. They've created more networks of social support, and they've created more opportunities and networks for people to trust their healthcare providers and just the wider public in general. And finally, if you go to additional news and resources and scroll down, all the way down, right here there are two links. This one, this is a link for people who live every day in poverty and struggle, and they can find access to healthcare opportunities. There's links to walk-in clinics and other resources on this link. And the second link is a link for students at University of Delaware specifically. The college provides healthcare services and insurance directly through the school no matter a student's financial situation. So this link right here, regardless of a student's financial situations, whether or not they have health insurance, this link right here will take students to our healthcare or health services website, where there's a whole bunch of different healthcare resources that they can utilize.
Hello class, my name is Jennifer Chang and I am part of Opportunity Initiation. For my part of this project, I decided to focus on how a lack of education can negatively affect people, especially children living in poverty. Education to me is very important because it is a vital right and plays a key role in human, social, and economic development. When individuals who live in poverty are unable to receive good quality education, it decreases their chances of having successful futures. Some may be fortunate enough to go to schools, but many of these schools have overcrowded classrooms, broken desks, and no computers. If children living in poverty stop going to school so they can work and help provide for their family, they are unable to get the literacy and numeracy skills they need to further their careers. Knowledge gives children the power for a better future, which will then help generations to come. Adults are also affected because they are less likely to learn about day-to-day life lessons. For example, they are less likely to become educated about nutrition, healthcare, etc. The more education that parents have, the better role models they can be to their children. Education overall can help families and communities out of the cycle of poverty. For my second article, I researched about Build On, which is an international nonprofit organization that is aiming to break the cycle of poverty, illiteracy, and low expectations through service and education. They are doing this by providing service learning programs in America's underserved high schools and by building classrooms in some of the world's economically poorest countries. Furthermore, they offer a Build On movement where they partner with leaders from various companies. This partnership program is a way for these leaders to connect with Build On students and empower them to contribute in a meaningful way. Over the course of 6 months, these businesses participate in monthly 3-hour engagements focused on their topic of choice. They have the opportunity to share their skills on career development, college readiness, community engagement, financial literacy, and technology to help students gain critical tools for their future. Public sectors can come in as well by authorizing grants to this nonprofit organization to support more research, demonstrations, technology, and personal development. By collaborating with private sectors and nonprofit organizations, they can help improve the quality and even chance of an education for those living in poverty. For my third article, I found how social entrepreneurships bring value to fight against poverty that the government, corporations, and non-governmental organizations do not. They have unique mindsets, never give up, think outside the box, and are willing to empower others to help solve their own challenges. Social entrepreneurs can develop new models that blend assets of various sectors without being stuck with what each sector can and cannot do. In order to help alleviate poverty, social entrepreneurs have the power to fund enterprises that serve people who are living in poverty. Overall, they can offer a more substantial approach to solve this problem. For additional information about this particular issue, UC Davis wrote an article on how much education level relates to poverty. Overall, they found that in 2014, people 25 years or older who were living in poverty had a percentage rate of 29% to have no high school diploma, while only 12% not living in poverty also did not. Those who had no college experience comprised a larger percentage rate than their share of the general population as well. The percentage rate of individuals living in poverty who did not have a bachelor's degree or higher was only 14%, in contrast to the rest of the general population of 33%. Stand Together is another off-campus resource that I found that partners with organizations that revitalize communities and transform lives by empowering individuals. Here on their website, you can see statements and statistics as to why education and poverty is a complicated cycle and what we can do to help ultimately alleviate this global issue. Thank you.
What's going on, guys? My name is Vincent Moore. I'm a junior here at the University of Delaware studying sociology with a minor in leadership. So it's really interesting to dive into opportunity gap from a sociological lens as well as the leadership lens and looking at global contexts. But my section of looking into this is from the career field, and it's really interesting. So I'll dive into it a little bit towards the end of the video, why I think it's such an impactful piece of opportunity gap and how it overflows into other methods. But let's go ahead and dive right into it. So the beginning of where we're going to start is understanding the statement of the issue, right? Talking through that we have to understand we live in inequality in the financial realm across the globe, and the major contributor to that is unemployment. Not having a steady stream of income, as we talk through in the article, is a major contributor to poverty. It hinders a family from having a steady household budget. It hinders a family from being able to buy the needs that they have, from food, water, and things of that nature. If you don't have a steady income, it's hard to gauge and it's hard to move up, and it's hard to even think about, exploring into, the sport field if you don't have, water and food in your household because you don't have a steady stream of income. So getting that steady stream of income and attacking unemployment is what's extremely necessary to understand when it comes to career field poverty gap. So how do we attack unemployment? That's a big question because unemployment is a big problem to tackle. And the reason it's so big is because it's a multifaceted issue. And I think that's important to note because you can't solve a multifaceted issue with a one-dimensional solution. And as the last article states, that's kind of what's going on. I know we didn't cover it so far, but you can see it in the first paragraph here of the multi-sector engagement is that there's different stakeholders who are doing their own thing to try to close the opportunity gap, such as investors, people in the nonprofit sector, and government agencies. But, they're all doing it in a one-dimensional, as my dad would quote, a one-trick pony fashion. And to tackle, opportunity gap in the career realm, in order to tackle unemployment, a multifaceted issue, we should use multi-sector collaboration. And if we were collaborating, a project done in Baltimore that we talk about in this article, it studies the issue more in depth, and it talks about how the opportunity gap when it comes to the career field is not just straight up careers, people not being qualified for the jobs. It's multifaceted. Right? There's a social component of it where people with a criminal record are unable to find reliable jobs that will hire them. There's also, people who have transportation issues where they're not able to get to work on a consistent basis, so therefore they, make themselves ineligible to be hired. And I think if we came with a multi-sector approach, just to comment on those, two issues listed in the article, a business itself, could come up with a contract where, they develop relationships with, maybe a nonprofit who does outreach to the community. And, the business could open its doors to, people with a criminal record and be willing to, hire them on a regular basis. So that way, there's a relationship created and an opportunity just opened up, through a nonprofit who does outreach to folks with a criminal record seeking job employment, than a business who's willing to open its doors so that that employment can be done. And then a government agency can step in to handle the transportation issues. They can, increase funding so that people can, have public transportation to the business, that would be doing the hiring, or some of the businesses that would be doing the hiring. And, connect with the nonprofit to understand, hey, where's the demographic of people? Where are the people coming from? And, where are their homes so that, they can create, maybe a bus transit or a train station that's in a central location for people to be able to use public transportation. But the point is, right, that's just an example, but multi-sector approach, you use the strengths of people from each sector, whether it be government. All right, we have, ability to fund for a transportation system, or a business who's able to open its doors and hire folks, or a nonprofit who can do outreach and has a good reputation in the community, using multifaceted, multi-sector solutions for a multifaceted issue. In addition to multi-sector engagement, another way that we can tackle unemployment would be through social innovation. So social innovation is defined as, from Stanford Business School, the process of developing and deploying effective solutions to challenging and often systemic social and environmental issues in support of social progress. So, a systemic change that we can make, right? You can use the multi-sector approach in order to tackle current unemployment. I think that's a fantastic ideal if we use multi-sector engagement. In order to prevent future unemployment, I think a great thing to do would be to target school systems, meaning that we would develop a school program that would propel students to the next level and prepare them to take advantage of opportunities in the future, whether that's networking, right, with businesses that are out there and hiring and looking for the next batch of people to come in as employees. But creating a program would create a level playing field for children in the school system, as well as preparing and prepping their minds for taking advantages of opportunities, in the future. One of the statements that we made in the previous article is that folks who were unemployed for 12 months or more were 5 times less likely to gain new employment than folks who were in short-term unemployment. So if we can prep students to take advantage of opportunities right out of the gate coming out of school, there will be a higher likelihood of them getting hired than if they were in long-term unemployment and not having an opportunity right after their school years. So the crux of the issue, the point of the matter is that career field and unemployment is a large contributor to the opportunity gap. Not having that steady stream of income is something that can hinder a household and can create, a large level of poverty within a household, and that's worldwide. I think it's something that's really important to notice. And with that being said, it's also important to note how big of a chain in the link of opportunity gap that the career field is. If we can create a steady stream of income in a household, that alleviates stress of just having the needs. And if we can create a steady stream of income that also taps into the wants of a household, then we close the opportunity gap when it comes to other facets of opportunity gap that our team talks about, such as sports or extracurricular activities. With a steady stream of income in a household, you gain access to more sports teams, as well as Medicare, right? Medical care. If you have a steady stream of income, you're less worried about filling that gap, because medical care is expensive in the world. So creating that stream of income, closing that opportunity gap in the career field can make a major impact on other areas and spill over. And I think it's important to note that each of these areas are collaborative when it comes to closing the opportunity gap. So thank you for your time. Appreciate you listening. And let's go make a change.